Before I get into today's episode, I've set myself a little goal for 2025 where I want to try and upload more often to YouTube, and I just want to take YouTube a little bit more seriously in general. So I'm hoping to upload more often and hopefully grow the channel throughout the year. And I've realised that a lot of people who watch my videos are not actually subscribed. So if you are one of those people that enjoy my videos but you're not subscribed, I would appreciate it if you'd hit subscribe. It'd help me out and it's free for you to do. So thank you in advance to everyone who does subscribe and everyone who is already subscribed. Let's get into the video. Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another episode of the Minecraft Survival Let's Play. So this is actually my first episode of the new year. So I hope everyone had a nice Christmas and New Year's Eve and all of that. I'm actually recording this before Christmas, but it's not going to be uploaded for a few weeks. And if you stayed until the end of the last episode, I did mention that I want to try to upload at least once every 2 weeks for all of 2025. So I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stick to that, but that is the plan. So let's get straight into what I want to do today. So I did mention this in the last episode as well, that there's a bunch of new items that have been added to the game recently. That's why I'm over here at the Pale Garden. And then there's some items from the previous updates as well that I've still not collected yet. And of course I'm trying to get a full stack of every single item. So I need to try and get all of these new items and add them to the checklist. So this is my first time in a Pale Garden. I have watched a couple of videos on them, so I think I understand how everything works here. So the creeking only comes out at night time. And I do actually need a creeking to spawn if I want to get some of the resin. So there's one right here. So these things don't move if you're looking at them. And they also don't take damage, but if you do hit them, they kind of produce resin on the tree that they spawned from. So I can't see any, so I think maybe I need to destroy some of the wood there. So it actually turns out I was looking at the wrong tree. It's the tree behind this that the resin was going to. So this is where the heart should be. So I'm just going to try to farm a little bit of this resin quickly. And then I think I can craft a creeking heart, so I don't need to come back here to farm more of this. So I got a little bit of resin, and then I also collected the heart. So this should be enough to start a little resin farm over at the base somewhere. So now I need to go and collect all of the other items around here. I need to get some saplings. I want to get these flowers. So these open up during the night time. So I think it's like 2 separate flowers, even though it's the same one. So it looks like this through the day. And then through the night it opens up. And I tried sleeping the night away to get rid of the mobs, but there's still loads around here. You can see the mess here that all of the creepers made while I was trying to farm a little bit of resin. Okay, so I've got some saplings, some moss, creeking heart, some resin, the flowers, and then the hanging moss as well. So I think that's everything I need from this biome to be able to make farms for all of the new items from that update. I can always come back here if I'm forgetting something. But anyway, I quickly mentioned what I want to do in today's episode, but I'm just going to talk about it a little bit more here. So if you're new to this series, my main aim for this world is to collect a full stack of every single item. And this is where I'm storing all of those items. So this is what I call the checklist room. I went through all of the different items that you can get in Survival Minecraft. I organised them into categories, and then I put placeholders for all of the items into these chests. So you can see here there's a lot of items that are stacked up to 64. Obviously I've got a full stack of them. And then there's some of them that I've only got one of or whatever, like 34 of these small drip leaves. So this is just to let me know I still need another 63 of these and I still need another 30 of these. So the problem is I created this checklist about 5 years ago, and since then there's been a bunch of updates and a bunch of new items that keep getting added. So I keep having to update this checklist here. And recently we got 2 new updates and a bunch of new items. Well, one of these updates wasn't too recent. The trial chamber update was quite a while ago now. You can see I've got a bunch of the items from there, but I've still not added these to the checklist yet. And there's still a bunch more that I need to collect. And then of course there's the Pale Garden update with all of those items as well. I think some bundles got added to the game as well at some point. So yeah, there's a bunch of new items that I just need to collect in today's episode and then add them to the checklist down below. So I got to work on the first project that I want to do in today's episode. And this is going to be a little resin farm. I did a little bit of research on them first just to see if I was missing out on any of the mechanics, but they seem pretty simple to build. so I just came up with my own design. I was thinking about doing a tutorial for this farm, but I'm going to be honest, it's just not very good. It does get me a little bit of resin, but I'm definitely going to build a better one in the future. But the way this works is when it gets to night time, the creekins will spawn in the water streams. They get pushed down into the trident killer in the middle here. And then if I turn it on, they will start taking damage. And then the resin will start to generate on some of the logs here, so you can see some right there. And these pistons are connected to the trident killer, so they just keep pulsing back and forth. And then they will harvest any of the resin, and then it will go into the chest here. And I don't actually know if it makes the farm more efficient to have more of these chambers here. So I've got 6 of them in total, but I think if I only had one, it would probably produce the same rates, because the resin only seems to generate on one of these at a time. So for right now it's generating here. So yeah, I don't think it actually makes it more efficient to have more of these. So as I mentioned, this is only a temporary farm. I'll definitely build a better one in the future. At the moment this is only producing about 4 or 5 stacks of resin per night time, because of course the creeking will despawn in the morning. So I want to build one that's much more efficient than this. But I did stay AFK for quite a long time, probably 12 or 13 hours in total. And I managed to get a full shulker box full of resin and then another 18 stacks or so here as well. So I have got plenty of it for now, but I think it'll be a fun project to work on a much bigger one in the future. And if you're wondering where the creaking hearts are, I actually put them around the back. So I put them behind the logs instead, and that just... Okay, my controller just died there. So I put the creaking hearts behind these logs, and that just gives an extra space for the resin to generate on the logs here. I don't really know if that makes the farm much more efficient either, but yeah, that's just how I did that. And now that I've got a bunch of resin, I've gone ahead and I've made a little checklist just with all of the items that got added in recent updates. So first of all, I've got all of the pale wood and then the resin down here. I've gone ahead and got all of the bundles. I don't actually know when these got added, but they got added quite recently, so I need to add these to the checklist down below as well. And I'm actually thinking I'll probably carry one of these all the time. They're quite useful if you're like going caving or something like that and picking up loads of random items. Then these 3 chests here are from the previous update with the trial chambers. So I've got a bunch of the different copper variants and the tough variants. I've still got some of the copper oxidizing over here. This chest I need a few of the enchanted books and some other stuff. I think the potions and arrows are going to go in here, so I still need to get all of them. And in this final chest here I've got most of the stuff, but I still need to get the map that you can get from the villagers. I think it's a trial chamber locator map. And then I also need the heavy core and the mace as well. And speaking of heavy cores and maces, I've got some old footage to show here. So when the trial chambers were first released, I built a trial chamber farm to get plenty of ominous keys. And what I did shortly after I uploaded that episode is I went and found a bunch of trial chambers around the world. And I opened 100 ominous vaults. So that's the footage that you see in here. I opened 100 of them in total. And it did take me quite a while to get through all of these. And this is the loot that I managed to get from those 100 vaults. So plenty of diamonds, emeralds, iron gear, and banner patterns. I don't really need this stuff, but the stuff I did need is in here. So 10 heavy cores in total, which is pretty good. That's 1 per vault on average. Plenty of armor trims. I got most of the books that I need, but I didn't get all of them, so I still need to get some of these at some point today. Plenty of record discs here. And 25 enchanted apples, so that works out at 1 in every 4 vaults. And I've actually already got a bunch of enchanted apples here. So 47, so that means I've got over a stack now. So I might as well just check these off the checklist. So I've got 1 in there already, add another 63. And that's a full stack of enchanted apples checked off the checklist. And it's kind of funny that when I started this series, like probably 5 or 6 years ago now, the enchanted apples was the hardest item to get out of every item. They used to be extremely rare, but they're pretty common these days. I've noticed the rarity has changed. It's now blue when it used to be purple. Yeah, these used to be extremely rare, the rarest item in the game by quite a distance. But there's so many more items that are harder to get these days. So yeah, it's not actually that big of an achievement to check this off the checklist. but it is one of the rare items, so I'm happy to get that out of the way. And now that I've got these heavy cores, I can add one to this mini checklist here. I've actually had these for like 3 or 4 months now, just waiting for this episode, and I've just been sitting in that chest there for ages, so I can finally actually do something with these. So I'm going to put one in there, and then I'm going to make a mace. So I'm going to make one, and this is going to go in this shulker box here. So when I make a museum, which might be a while from now, these are some of the trophies and stuff that I'm going to have in the museum. So I wanted to have my first heavy core in there, and then I'm going to put my first mace in there as well. And then of course I can craft another mace, and this is the one that's going to go into the checklist down below. I'm also going to make one more mace because I actually want one, I want to use one. I've never used one yet, so I'm going to try and get all of the best enchantments. I don't actually know what the enchantments are. Yeah, I think this is quite an interesting weapon. I like when they add new weapons to the game. So I'm going to try and get the best enchantments on this, and then I might use it a little bit later in the episode. And one thing I forgot to mention when I showed all of this loot that I got from the trial chambers, while I was raiding these, I also got a bunch of pottery shards. So there's 3 different types you can get from the trial chambers. I collected as many of these as I found, and this is quite useful because the pottery shards are some of the hardest items to get a full stack of. So I'm just kind of making slow progress on these over time. You can see I don't really have too many of most of these, only like 3 or 4. But the trial chamber ones are probably the easiest ones to get. So I sorted these enchanted books into this little checklist here. So I've got all of the breach books, breach 1, 2, 3 and 4. I looked it up, I thought there was a breach 5, but there's not. I've only got Windburst 1, so there's Windburst 2 and Windburst 3 that I also need to get. And I've only got Density 2 and Density 4. So this goes up to Density 5, so I still need 5, 3 and 1. So this is what I'm going to work on next. I was going to head to some trial chambers to get these books, but then I realised I can just get them from villager trading instead. So I used some villagers from one of my villager breeders, and I got to placing and breaking a lectern over and over again, until eventually I got all of the different books that I needed. So these are the villagers that I got here. So I didn't really need this one, but I got breach 4. I just wanted a villager for this trade, so if I ever need this book in the future, I can easily get it. And then I've got the Density 5 villager here. It's quite expensive, 63 emeralds, but I don't think it's a trade I'm going to need too often. I did go ahead and kill the Density 3 and the Density 1 villager, but I did get the books here first. So there was no point of keeping them around, I'm never going to need them again. But I kept the Density 5 one here. And I also went ahead and got a cartographer, just so I can get the Trial Explorer map there. And I'm probably going to kill this guy as well, I don't need him anymore, so he's probably not going to make it out of the episode. And if you're wondering why I'm just randomly over here in a desert, so this is next to my raid farm, the farming district and the mob farm. I actually want to come back here and do some work with these villagers and some more villagers soon. So I set up a village breeder over here a while ago. I've had this project planned for quite a while, and I want to get started on it in today's episode. And if you're wondering why I didn't get a villager for Windburst 2 and Windburst 3, it's because you can't actually get it from villager trading. So I spent about 25 or 30 minutes just placing and breaking a lectern over and over and over again. And I kind of realised I just wasn't seeing Windburst at all. So I went ahead and looked it up on Google, and you can't get this from villager trading, you can only get this from the vaults in the trial chambers. So yeah, that was a little bit of a waste of time. But luckily for me, I did get enough books when I raided the vaults to make the books that I need. So if I combine these two together, I can get Windburst 2. And if I combine all 4 of these together, I can get Windburst 3. So I combined those books there, so I've got all of the Windburst books now. It did cost me 10 of my levels, and at this level that I am at the moment, it probably takes me like 2 hours to get 10 levels of XP. Because obviously the higher level you are, the more XP you need to get a new level. So yeah, it's a little bit of wasted XP, but I needed to do it. I also went ahead and got all of the new potions and tipped arrows, and all of the copper that was oxidizing finished, so I've got all of the copper variants. So I think this is all of the new items that got added in the update. Well, I think this is over 3 different updates now. But I think I'm just going to go through these chests slowly, and if everyone wants to kind of have a look and see if I'm missing any items, just feel free to let me know down below. So I think this is all of the copper variants and the wax copper variants. So the copper is on the left and then the wax copper is on the right. And it's also all of the different tough variants as well. And then down here I've got all of the books and potions. So density 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Breach 1, 2, 3 and 4. Wind charge or wind burst 1, 2 and 3. And then I've got the ominous bottles, so this is the regular one, and then 2, 3, 4 and 5. And then I've got some of the potions at the bottom. So each one has a regular version, a splash version, a lingering one, and then an arrow. I didn't really pay too much attention to these getting added. So there's weaving, oozing, wind charged, and infested. I don't actually know what most of these do, but I think this one here is going to be quite interesting. But I'll get back onto that in a second. Down here I've just got some items that you can get from the trial chambers, then the trial explorer map, and the wolf armor, which was added in like the previous update. I think that was just kind of its own thing when the wolves got added to the game. And then finally is the most recent update with all of the pale wood and the variants of that, the resin blocks, and then the bundles as well. So yeah, if anyone wants to just kind of have a quick look through these chests, maybe take some screenshots and see if I'm missing any of the items that got added recently, feel free to let me know down below. And before I head back over to the desert to get on with a project over there, I do want to try this splash potion of weaving. So I read up a little bit about it, and I think if I throw it at some mobs, I'm just going to throw it at some pigs here, the mobs that are infected, if they die, they will drop cobwebs like this. So I don't really know what use I would have for this, but it's kind of useful for farming cobwebs. I don't know how to do that efficiently, but there's no way to farm cobwebs at the moment apart from go to find them in abandoned mine shafts. So if I do it this way, I'm sure there's some kind of method to make a farm out of this. So you can actually farm cobwebs now. I don't really know why you'd want to farm cobwebs. It's not an item that's overly useful in the game, but it is possible to do it now. You need 1 cobweb to make 3 of these weaving potions, and then I'm sure you can get plenty of cobwebs back from each potion. So it's a project maybe I'll look at in the future. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I still need to add all of these new items to the checklist down below, and I want to clean up a little bit up here as well. And I also want to organise the checklist a little bit. So I made this checklist a long time ago, and since then there's been a bunch of new items added to the game, and I just kind of throw them in random chests sometimes. I try to organise them, but not really. So I just want to organise the checklist a little bit more. Like you saw in here, the mangrove wood. This got added quite recently. There's also the bamboo, the cherry wood, and the pale oak woods. I'm going to put them over here with the other wood variants. So it just kind of makes sense to have them all together. So I'll probably move some items over. But yeah, none of that stuff is really that interesting, so I'm going to be doing all of that off camera. But what I do want to work on next is to do with this chest right here. So you might be thinking this is quite empty. I don't think I've ever really shown this one on camera before because I never went ahead and got all of the tipped arrows when I made this checklist. So I just put 1 arrow up here to kind of indicate that this is where the tipped arrows go. But I just didn't bother going ahead, brewing all of the potions, getting the dragon's breath and making all of the tipped arrows. So that's what I want to work on now, but I'm actually not going to use that method. The method I want to use is the villager trading method. So that brings me back over here to the desert. So the plan is to build a structure and then I'm going to have the trading hall inside there. And the reason I'm over here in the desert is because I thought it would be a cool idea if I built a desert pyramid and then I built the trading hall inside there. I've played Minecraft for like 13 or 14 years now, and I think this is the first time I've ever built a pyramid. I'm always seeing them around, but I just don't think I've ever built one myself. But I went for this colour theme here. Obviously it's in the desert, so I've gone for the sand and the red sand. And I think I'm going to have a bunch of other buildings around here eventually, and I'll stick with the same colour theme. So I think it looks good from a distance, and if I get closer it still looks nice. But you just kind of have to ignore the fact that it's floating in the air. So I wanted to build it at that height, but I couldn't be bothered going around and placing all of the sand just yet. But anyway, if I head inside, you can see it's just a completely hollow pyramid at the moment. So I need to do an interior, and like I said, this is going to be for my villagers. So I'm going to get a bunch of Fletchers down here for all of the tipped arrows. But I also want to have some librarians in here. Of course, I have my main trading hall over in the Ocean Monument near the base, so I can get all of the useful book trades there. But that place is full and they're still adding new enchantments to the game. So I'm going to have an area in here for librarians where I can get any new enchanted books, like the ones over here that I just got earlier in this episode. So I guess the next thing I need to do here is just kind of plan out where everything's going to go. I'm probably going to separate this into a few different rooms and at least 2 floors. And I also need to start getting some villagers in here. So first I had to decide what block palette I wanted to use. And I decided that I wanted to keep it the same as the exterior, but I have a severe lack of red sand, so I had to go out and spend some time collecting a bunch of that first, and then getting to work on the interior. I actually forgot to record a lot of this, so I don't really have much to show, but I will do a quick tour of the build afterwards. And once I've finished with that, I could start moving the villagers inside. So I started off with the librarians from earlier, and I also start doing some trading with some Fletchers so I can get the different tipped arrows. But I kind of realised that this is a little bit pointless. So not only can I not get all of the tipped arrows from the villagers, I can actually just get them way easier if I use some cauldrons. So I'm going to be doing the cauldron method instead, which is much easier, and I just completely forgot that it was in the game. So I think I'm still going to fill this pyramid with villagers, but I'm just not going to bother with the Fletchers. They don't really have any useful trades. I only wanted the tipped arrows, but like I said, it's a little bit pointless getting these. Yeah, all of the other trades are pretty rubbish, so I think I'll just kill these off and then I'll fill these spots with other villagers at some point. So I said I was going to do a quick tour of the pyramid, I'll get to that in a second. But I don't know if I'm missing something, but there's mobs all over here, and it's daytime, so shouldn't these be burning in the daytime? So there's some like this with the armour on that shouldn't be burning up, but there's other ones like that creeper's just spawned. I'm pretty sure this creeper's just spawned. That zombie should be burning. So yeah, that's a little bit weird, I think. But anyway, on with the tour. So you go through the front door here, and then to the left there's this room with the Fletchers. Like I said, I will kill these and I'll add some other villagers here at some point. I'll skip this for now. So you can go up here, and then to the left this is where the librarians are with the breach and the density trades. And then if I go up the other side, it's just a mirror on the other side, and this actually loops around. So I've got enough room for 4 more librarians here, and then another 6 over here if I need them. And then it goes upstairs. And I didn't really know what to do here. I'll probably just add some storage here at some point. And I did these little armour stands with the leather armour and the emerald trim. I think these look quite nice and it fits in with the theme. And coming back down to this room here, I basically didn't know what to do, so I've just split it up into a few smaller rooms. Or I've marked out where the rooms are going to go, and if they ever add some new villages to the game or new trades to the game, I'll make some little trading rooms here, and I can put some more villages in here. And then over in this corner, my sister gave me the idea to have a secret room, so I've kind of marked out where this is going to be, and there's going to be like a secret entrance to this at some point, but that's all a project for another day. So back over to the base. As I mentioned, I can just get the tipped arrows from the cauldrons. So this feature got added a while ago now. I remember it getting added, I remember thinking about it, and then I just never used it. So the way this works is you put some potions into a cauldron like this. So 3 does the trick. And then I can get some arrows. And then if I just left click on the cauldron, you can see now I've got a stack of tipped arrows with fire resistance. So I went ahead and I did this for all of the different variants of tipped arrows, and even though this is a much better method, it still took me a long time to get through all of them, and that actually means I can complete another chest in the checklist room. So this one here is called weapons, and this is the one that had all of the arrows and tipped arrows, and then a few of the weapons and bits of armour at the bottom. So I've completed every item in this chest and I can check it off. And you might notice that these arrows here look different to the older ones. That's because these are newly added to the game. Now, my texture pack, I've had it for a few years. It had some controversy. I think some guy was trying to sell it, but he didn't actually own the rights to it. But I bought it during that time and I've used it ever since. So it doesn't get new updates anymore. So it's fine for all of the older textures, but when new items get added in new updates, they just get given the default textures. It's not always noticeable, but now there's more and more items getting added, I do want to start looking for a new texture pack. So I was thinking that I've been working on this base for about 4 years now, but if you saw the base you wouldn't think it was 4 years worth of progress. So I've set myself a little goal going forward where I'm going to try do a little bit of work on the base in every episode. So some episodes I'll do a lot more than others, but I just want to make sure I'm at least adding something to the base in every single video. And this is the addition for today's episode. So this is behind the farmhouse that I built about 3 years ago now. And when I built this, I always said I was going to build a boat behind here on the docks. And I've just never got round to it, so I finally decided to do this. And it's only a small build, it doesn't really add too much to the village overall. But I think having these small builds is quite important when you're building a village. I'm not too sure about the colour palette. I like the boat by itself, but because it's the same colour palette as the docks that's right next to it, I think that makes it look a little bit strange. But yeah, I'm probably just going to keep it like this anyway. And I tried to add a few small details in here, just like some chests and a seat to sit down. So yeah, this is the latest addition to the base. And like I said, it doesn't really add a whole lot to the base. But if I keep building small things like this around the outside and like inside of the island, it's going to add a lot to the base overall in the long run. But anyway, I was busy last night clearing up all of this area. So I've still got all of the animals here. I'm working on some projects for these to take them off to other places. But I moved all of the items from here down to the checklist room. And then I moved all of the items in these chests over here to the storage room. So I'm not going to bore you and show you every single thing that I've done down in this checklist room. But I kind of tried to move a lot of items around, or the chests around, just to make it a little bit more organised than it was before. Like before there was just some random items thrown in these chests at the end, but now it's kind of more organised. So this is like the copper, well this is the waxed copper, and then the copper is above, and then I've got like deep slate, tuff and resin. Like these just couldn't really go into any other chest, so I kind of put them together. And I've got all of the wood down at the end now, so all of the different types of wood are together. So I organised it all, and I also added all of the new items to here as well. So a lot of them just go into existing chests, like the mob drops here. I've added the wind charge, the breeze rod, the armadillo scoot. For the music chest over here, I've added the new record. So like I said, I'm not going to bore you and show you every single chest and where I put every single item. But all of the new items that got added that I collected today have all gone into the checklist now. And I think there's actually already a new snapshot with some new items that are going to get added to the game soon. So it seems like Mojang are going to keep releasing like more regular updates, some smaller ones, and then like one big one per year. So it's going to be a little bit of a pain to keep up to date with all of the new items that get added to the game with each update. But I'm going to try my best to keep on top of it, and hopefully at some point I can actually complete this challenge. But anyway, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. I'm going to finish clearing this up before the next episode. I feel like I didn't really get as much done as I would usually in one of these videos. But as I mentioned at the start, I want to try to upload more regularly throughout 2025, so that's probably going to mean there's a little bit less progress in each episode. But I hope everyone enjoyed anyway, and I will see you all next time.